Catalonia, an autonomous region of Spain. Does it sound familiar? It is located in the north of the Iberian Peninsula and contains Barcelona, among Spain's most lucrative tourist destinations. Before it was a Spanish region, as early as the Middle Paleolithic era, it was populated by Iberians and Greeks. It was the first part of Hispania to be conquered by Rome during the Roman conquest. Still doesn't sound familiar? Less than 100 years ago, they aided in defending the Second Spanish Republic in the Spanish Civil War, unfortunately losing the conflict and their autonomy to Christian nationalist forces who were rallying behind dictator Francisco Franco. It took only 3 years after Franco's death in 1975 for the people of Catalonia to vote for a new constitution and for their renewed autonomy. Not ringing any bells? Well, I'm surprised because on September 6, 2017, an independence referendum, proposed in June, was approved by the government of Catalonia. The Catalan government decided that on October 1, 2017, a vote would be held to decide whether or not Catalonia became independent. The referendum, however, was shut down by the Spanish government the next day. Does that sound familiar? I imagine that the bells are ringing now, maybe not because you've heard of Catalonia or the referendum, but because you've definitely heard of Brexit. And to an outsider, this is reminiscent of Brexit. A region of a collective votes to leave the collective doesn't want the region to leave and fights against the process. The situations are not the same, obviously. Brexit was about a country leaving the EU, while the Catalan referendum is about a region in a country leaving that country to become its own country, foreseeably then joining the EU, though this is unclear as of now. However, the similarity remains that these are two situations in which part of a collective wishes to leave the collective, but is met with almost dictatorial opposition. Catalonians have experienced the financial crisis recently, this being largely attributed to the redistribution of tax money going to poorer areas of Spain like Madrid. The crisis has only added to the support for separatism. Those similarities between the Catalan referendum and Brexit are the reason why you aren't hearing about Catalonia. Brexit showed the world of Britain that, contrary to what EU representatives would have you believe, was not safe, sound, and comfortable in the arms of their European all-mother. Brexit then showed the world that even if people came together, made their voices heard, and had a successful vote to leave the EU, that did not necessarily mean that the EU was going to let them leave. And now, a region of Spain feeling the long-term economic effects of wealth redistribution is holding a vote to leave Spain, the Catalan government assuring its people that the vote will be held and will be binding, but the Spanish government saying that they will not allow Catalonia to leave. This is not what the EU wants the people of the world to see. It shatters their image of a free, united, virtuous EU that just wants to give people what they want. It exposes a much larger, more sinister face that the EU is not yet ready to show the world, the true face of globalism. The EU has seemed to deal with terrorism in one way, not dealing with it. A terrorist attack happens, everybody changes their Facebook profile picture and Twitter avatar by overlaying the affected country's flag and offering thoughts and prayers. Inevitably, someone calls into question the safety of European states from Islamic terrorism. The EU then takes this opportunity to denounce racism by exonerating Islam, opening its borders even further, and calling those who question these actions racist and xenophobic. The number of terrorist attacks increases, seeming to occur even more frequently than federal holidays, and the brainwashed masses just use social media to virtue signal even further, repeating the process every time into infinity. Until now, that is, because now, the beginning of the final step in a totalitarian power grab has begun. Theresa May has declared martial law in London. Due to recent terrorist attacks, military personnel will replace police in certain areas of London which are deemed high risk. Theresa is also calling for more heavily armed police officers, all in the name of extra protection for the people. Radical Islamic terrorism is all but encouraged by the gross lack of response to rapes and assaults being committed by terrorist groups in the EU. The mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, openly claimed that terrorist attacks were just par for the course of living in a big city. And now Theresa May has declared that, seemingly despite the EU's tolerance for terror, the threat of terrorism in the UK is critical and must be met by military personnel in the streets. I'm sure I don't need to elaborate any further. This is the beginning of a police state. This is the modern world's first look at the true face of globalism. And to me, this means that the overwhelming and frankly humbling displays of pride and independence shown by the Catalan people will probably not be met by any sort of real true independence, but instead the Catalan referendum will be stifled by what is ultimately a totalitarian uprising in its beginning stages. And as for London, I'm starting to fear for the worst. My greatest fear for London is that these military people roaming the streets will not be attempting to fight terrorism, but rather will be there in order to control their own citizens. And I'm sure that I'm not the only one with this fear. I'm going to end this video here. I've got some English and European friends that I'd like to talk to about this. Sorry if this was a little bit too serious for you. Thank you for watching and listening. Phobos out.